So I first wrote to the Waifs and Strays Society inquiring about any information my father had, and they initially responded as, yes, he was in our care, and provided dates that we already knew, that he came to Canada in 1925. Well, gee, I think he knew that. So there was a little back and forth about, I want the file, I want the information. They diddled around for about 3 months, saying, well, we have to retrieve the file and photocopy it, and the paper's awful delicate. Who cares? I wanted the information off the paper. Eventually, they gave me scraps, a couple pages at a time, and I kept writing, I want the complete file, I want everything you have. And they finally sent a package, which I opened with trembling hands. And the most startling page was the intake form, dated 1913. It was filled out by the local vicar, a very comprehensive form. Some of it reads as follows. The mother of Frederick George Snow is the second wife of John George Snow, by whom she had 2 children, Amy and John. Her husband had a grown-up son by his first wife, called William Henry Snow, who is 9 years younger than his stepmother. Oh my God. After 2.5 years of writing to the Waifs and Strays, I finally received a package of his case file. The most important piece of paper was the admittance form, dated 1913, almost 100 years old. The vicar of the church wrote, the mother of Frederick George Snow is the second wife of John George Snow, by whom she had 2 children, Amy Alice and John Allen Snow. Her husband had a grown-up son by his first wife, called William Henry Snow, who was 9 years younger than his stepmother, Annie Gifford. Annie Gifford turned out to be a very bad woman and behaved very disgracefully with her stepson, in such a manner that when Frederick Snow was born, this woman's own husband did not own this child, but says it undoubtedly is his eldest son's child. So, in other words, my father's father was William Henry Snow. They knew that since 1913. My father wrote to them for 60 years, who is my father? It's right here. And they never told him. So he died, not knowing who his father was, nor his mother. The vicar goes on. Shortly after behaving very badly, the woman ran away with her stepson, taking only Frederick, the baby, with her. About a year ago, the woman returned, bringing Frederick with her, and another baby, William Alfred, hers and her stepson's. So my father had a brother, and I have an uncle. Again, they knew that for almost 100 years. They didn't tell him, and they didn't tell me. She stayed with her own husband and her 2 eldest children for a month or 2, and ran away again to join her stepson again, this time taking only the baby with her, and deserting Frederick, leaving him to the mercy of not his own father, but his wife's legitimate husband, John Snow. This man was very good to the child, although it was not his, and he had been so wronged. But having the 2 children of his own to work for and feed and clothe, and having very little work to do, they were almost at starvation's door. The Reverend Reeve, vicar of St. Peter's, Croydon, then sent this deserted waif to the children's convalescent home. This is such a drain on St. Peter's Poor Fund that Mr. Reeve finds he can no longer do this. In other words, my father was a drain on the Poor Fund, and that couldn't go on forever. And the Reeve goes on in Unanswered Questions, number 7. It is not known where the father and mother of Frederick Snow are. Actually, my grandfather was in the Army from 1910 to 1919. He wasn't too hard to find. My grandmother lived about a block away from her ex-husband. She wasn't hard to find. She was a little busy having a child. The vicar says, nothing is known about the child's own father. It is not known as to whether the mother earns anything or not. She took to drinking dreadfully, and the short time she was home last, she tried to pawn everything she could to buy drink. The only real brother or sister is a tiny baby named William Alford. Again, twice. My father had a brother. He never knew. Nobody told him. Being an illegitimate child, it is difficult to answer all these questions. But the mother's mother is known to be dead, and the mother's father is a very old man receiving old age pension. Again, my grandmother's parents lived 2 blocks away from where my father was staying. The mother, having deserted the child, has no right to say where the child shall go or not go, and as such, she has run away, and it is not known where she is. It would not, in any case, be able to ask her. The poor man with whom the child was left is only too thankful for the child to be taken care of anywhere in England or abroad, as he naturally never wishes to see it again. For although he is a most kind man with children, and was to this one too, this Frederick naturally only causes him pain. N.B. It has only just been found out lately that this child Frederick has not been baptized, but he's going to be next week. When the matron who's away returns, he will be baptized in the name of Frederick George. Again, my dad wrote for 60 years, do I have a birth certificate? What is my name? They had this baptism certificate for almost 80, 90 years. They gave it to him when he was 48 years old. But at least it said his name is Snow.